Good morning, everybody. It's Julie Roginski here with Michelle Kinney and Jeff Jarvis for our Friday morning roundup of all things in the media and all things going wrong in corporate media. Nothing more exemplary than what happened on CBS Saturday, which we'll get to in a moment. Hi, you guys. How's everybody?
You know.
Well, as can be expected.
Well, I did not watch this debacle on Saturday because I did not want to give them the ratings. Did you watch it so the rest of us didn't have to?
Exactly. It's in service to you. Did you watch it, Michelle?
No, I only caught the clips after, and also just in protest because I didn't want to give them any of my clips.
I agree. I taped it. I didn't watch it on Sunday. I made my daughter and wife were kind enough to watch with me and be appalled with me. It was awful. It was everything you know it was.
Yeah.
It was softball questions. It was her setting up. It was Barry setting up for tears.
Mm-hmm.
The one guy from the audience was actually one of the people who questioned Charlie on that day. So that he was supposed to be one of Charlie's opponents. It was BS. And it was just awful all around. It was ridiculous. I didn't take notes. I didn't go that far, but it was everything you expected it to be and worse. It is the utter shame of CBS. As somebody said in the socials today, RIP CBS News, 1927 until 2025. And Maurice Dubois signed off from his last anchoring on CBS News with good night and good luck, which was
we have that clip actually, Michelle. Do you want to just show that clip? Because I think it's actually
I have the whole sign off. I think it's with Maurice Dubois and John.
Sorry,
Dickerson.
I didn't mean to jump to that, but yeah.
No. Go ahead, because I think it's
I think that's a good thing for us to watch. This was last night, and here's their sign off, which I thought was a giant FU to all the people.
Finally, tonight, this is our last night anchoring the CBS Evening News.
And we want to leave you with some farewell thoughts tonight. Being invited into your homes each night has been the honor of a lifetime. This year, I've traveled the country to cover communities dealing with unspeakable tragedy and loss. How are you feeling right now? But shining brightly always was the heart and soul of everyday people. Really, really good people, there for each other, and crying out for our leaders to do better to protect them. David and Jackie Israel lost their home in the LA wildfires. They decided to take a bucket list trip, an RV ride across the country. They were deeply moved to discover how warm and kind and great everyday Americans can be. And what has always made CBS great is its dedicated team of journalists, exemplified by Marwan Al Ghul, our producer in Gaza. Despite bombs and bullets flying overhead, some even taking out members of his own family, he's brought the story home to America fearlessly. And for the relentless work of the entire team who've been fulfilling our commitment to following the facts, not opinions, and accurately informing you, I cannot thank this team enough. I've walked out of here each night extremely proud of the work we've done together. And you, our viewers, I cannot thank you enough for placing your trust in us. John, you're an outstanding journalist, an even better person. I've learned quite a bit from working with you. Proud to call you not just a colleague, but a friend.
Thank you, Maurice. A year and a half ago, we didn't even really know each other. And you've become a model for me and a trusted friend. So thank you. What the viewers don't know is that long before they could see us, we were thinking about you, the viewers. Planning for months in a conference room, we talked about your attention, how precious it was, and how we would honor it. That question has guided the decisions you saw and many you didn't. A research team that sweats the facts that shape how you see the world. Correspondents who follow the facts into war zones, into countries where they could be jailed, into sharp exchanges with the powerful who don't like being held to account, including a president who insulted them for it.
Why do you blame the Biden administration for what this man did?
Are you stupid?
Stories of wonder, of loss, of courage, asking why until the answers ran out. It has been an honor to put the work of our correspondents, producers, editors, and writers before you, and to work with my partner Maurice, who put his heart into our shared concern, doing right by you. Your expectation has been our responsibility and our reward.
That it has, my friend. And so for one last time, that is the CBS Evening News. I'm Maurice Dubois.
I'm John Dickerson. Thank you for watching.
And good night and good luck.
finally, tonight, this.
Oops. Yeah. Getting out of here. Hold on. Where is it? There it is. Yeah.
So good night and good luck, Edward R. Murrow.
Yeah.
A wonderful sly dig, plus the mention of the word facts oftentimes in that.
Yep.
Yeah. This feels like the end of something.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no evidence to believe that Tony Ducapil, who's going to be replacing Maurice Dubois and John Dickerson, is a bad journalist or that he's somehow going to pull his punches. We have no evidence, so let's give him a chance. But I will also say that what has been happening around CBS News, specifically with respect to what happened with the Erica Kirk interview last week, and more relevantly, what Barry Weiss is having come down the pike next, which are debates debating things that really are not debatable, like, is the earth flat or is the earth round? Let's have a fair and balanced debate. I mean, I just remember this so much from my Fox days of, is Barack Obama the worst president ever? Just the worst president in the last 100 years? We'll have a fair and balanced debate.
Right. And all they had to do is ask the question too. It was always like, is he the worst president? And like, just the
the
question.
Cavuto. Remember the Daily Show did this great thing called the Cavuto.
I remember.
Yeah. Where they're like, this is the question. Is your mother a whore? I'm not suggesting she's a whore. Reasonable people who've seen your mother walk the streets might pose that question. It's that kind of it's we have to pull that clip one day from
it's so good. Well, I have a clip of, speaking of Fox, in this tour, the little tour that she's been on, she was also on Outnumbered, which is the show that you used to be on, Julie. Right? Or were you on Outfoxed?
There was no Outfoxed. I was on the 5 and I was on Outnumbered.
I forget. I don't watch Fox News, so I don't know the names of these shows. So you'll have to forgive me. But here she is. There's a lot going on.
After me, call me names. I don't care. Call me what you want. Go down that rabbit hole. Whatever. But when you go after my family, my Turning Point USA family, my Charlie Kirk Show family, when you go after the people that I love, and you're making hundreds and thousands of dollars every single episode, going after the people that I love because somehow they're in on this. No.
I have to say it. I've never seen you like this.
No, this is righteous
This is the
anger
only
because this is not okay. It's
personality
not
she
healthy.
has.
This is a mind virus.
Mind virus.
Yes, I believe in our judicial system. I do. We have a hell of a team working on this. Excuse my French. But this is not okay.
So you want to put these people back in the box where they've been creeping from?
I don't care what box you're in. But just know that your words are very powerful, and we are human. My team are not machines, and they're not robots. They are human. We have more death threats on our team and our side than I have ever seen. I have kidnapping threats. You name it, we have it. And my poor team is exhausted. And every time they bring this back up, what are we supposed to do? Relive that trauma all over again? They watched my husband get murdered. I have no idea how I would have reacted if I was there that day. And thank the good Lord that I did not have to see that happen. But my team, they are rocked to the core. So why every single day do they have to be dragged through the mud, analyzed, hyper-analyzed? Sit in a corner and cry and be in fetal position. This is a duty to my husband, and it's an absolute honor, and I will never back down. And so my message to them is to stop.
Cool.
In the entire show, she mentioned Charlie's name by my count once. It was always my husband, my husband, my husband, which I found curious.
Let me say this about that show. So maybe I have not watched it since I left. So maybe times have changed. But when I used to be on that show, you would have 4 people plus one lucky guy on that show.
I think it's still, the format is still like that, but they
right.
occurred aside.
I've never seen somebody, the entire panel, not interview somebody. And that's a problem. That's a problem.
Well, she's being treated with kid gloves. Obviously, we all empathize with her for the loss of her husband, and we know what's happening there. But we also saw this week the Washington Post, just today, the Washington Post, the Broken Post, anointed her, put on a huge box on high up on the homepage. Kirk's widow endorses Vance as MAGA infighting rages. Well, who cares who she endorses. Endorses for what? Why is
Define
she
endorse.
now
Yeah.
suddenly a political kingmaker worthy of that kind of attention on Fox News, on CBS, in the Washington Post? She's being elevated in an unprecedented speed because of who her dead husband was.
Yeah.
But let's be clear, that's exactly right. She could either be the widow Kirk or she could be a kingmaker. That's fine. She could be either of those things, but she's using her husband's death and the pretext of the grieving widow to get a primetime address effectively on CBS.
Yep.
And we could get to the prime address and to politic.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
And
why
the
did-
ratings
and
were
why-
low on CBS.
Oh yeah.
But that doesn't give me any comfort because that wasn't the point. Money's not the point. Ratings aren't the point. The point is to give her that soapbox, and it will get out on YouTube. It'll get around. It'll go to the base. That's what's happening now. It's not about old scale and mass media. It's just another extension of the Fox ethos. Should we talk about what Barry's going to do next? Even after that embarrassing, humiliating, awful business failure, is she going to go under a rock? Oh no.
No,
She's going to make this into a series.
But before we get to that, can I just stay on Erica Kirk just for 1 second? Because
Sure,
I
sorry.
think what's happening here is that Turning Point USA and Erica Kirk are actually, I think, missing what's happening to MAGA. And I think a lot of the media, the corporate media at least, is missing where Republicans are and MAGA is right now. I think that much like Donald Trump, Turning Point USA is MAGA 1.0. And Erica Kirk might believe that she's galvanizing the movement in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, but she isn't, right? Because her little softly lit tour is totally missing the current zeitgeist. What made her husband so effective was his bloodlust. He called for children to witness executions. He said, and I'm going to quote here, I think children at a certain age as an initiation should be required to watch. Public executions by guillotine are holy. His wife, on the other hand, his wife, my husband, is pushing a forgiveness message, which is totally out of step with what's happening right now. The people who
This is
are
really
in
interesting.
step, the people who are in step, let me just say this. She's not the vanguard anymore. She's the opening act.
Yeah.
And the future of the MAGA movement that she has helped usher in, the darker, more radical, and far less interested in Trump's grievances part of this movement is already here. And it's not being shaped by her, and it's not being shaped by CPAC panels, and it's not being shaped by Charlie Kirk podcasts, but it's being shaped by anti-Semites like Candace Owens and misogynist incels like Nick Fuentes, who are openly contemptuous of her, openly contemptuous of Trump, and openly contemptuous of Barry Weiss because she is Jewish and a supporter of Israel, and openly and a woman and a lesbian.
I know.
So what Barry Weiss is doing by cracking open this door to Erica Kirk is that she thinks she's going to stem the tide of the Candace Owenses and the Nick Fuenteses, and the reality is that all she's doing by cracking it open is they're going to kick it open.
And they've already been doing it. I
Yep.
mean, the Groypers have already been showing up to TPUSA stuff for a while now and getting kicked out. So and the other part of this too is that Barry Weiss has very strangely centered herself in all of this. At what point does the news person become the story? And so I want to play just two things. I want to first play the promo of Barry Weiss walking through the newsroom talking about it, and again centering herself in all of this.
Can you hold on 1 second there? That word
Yeah,
centering,
absolutely.
I think, is so important here because she's trying to present herself as a news center when in fact she is on the extremist. That's why, Julie, your theory is so interesting, is it's truly a moving of the Overton window.
Yeah.
She's trying to claim what she is as a center and make Erica Kirk a center. So within that, yes.
Oh yeah, so I'll play that, and then right after that, I'm going to play the clip of the drama, of the manufactured drama with the Utah, the kid who asked that last question.
I just sat down for an hour with Erica Kirk, and we talked about everything. We talked about what was going through her head when she stood on that stage and forgave her husband's alleged murderer. We talked about all of the conspiracies surrounding his assassination. And of course, we talked about grief, political violence, and so much more. Watch this Saturday night on CBS at 8 p.m.
As you know, the last person that
Performance.
Charlie ever spoke to was a Utah Valley student named Hunter Kozak. He was asking Charlie a question that day when he was shot, and he's here tonight, and he wants to ask you a question.
Hi there. Erica, I want to tell you how much I appreciate your calls for peace and unity, and I'm likewise horrified by the people in my so-called camp who were cheering about Charlie's murder. I believe that they stoke the flames of violence. But even worse is when powerful, influential people on either side of the aisle stoke the flames. When they do it, the flames can become an inferno. And this leads me to Donald Trump, the most powerful and influential person on earth, who has more responsibility than anyone else to put the flames out. Just last month, President Trump called on 6 Democratic lawmakers to be tried for sedition, which he clarified was punishable by death. He then reposted a simple message: hang them. I think that you've been making strides to bring peace to our country, and that Turning Point has been asking Democrats to decry the individuals who cheer for violence. I have and will continue to decry them. But any good faith effort to stop political violence must hold both parties to the same standard and expectation. So in that spirit, will you condemn the violent rhetoric of Donald Trump, the most powerful and influential person on earth?
I appreciate your question. You know my heart. Why would I ever say, yes, go murder people? This is so much deeper than just one. I understand your sentiment. I do. But this is also so much deeper than just one person. This starts at the home, okay? This starts with family. This starts with a seed that grows and grows. You can choose to have evil in your heart, or you can choose to have light. What you consume and what you absorb from the outside world will manifest itself. No, I will never agree with political violence. My husband is a victim of it. I'm a victim of it. But what I'm trying to say here is that we can blame everyone else. We have to look in the mirror. When you become a father, when you become a mother, how are you raising your kids? Are you taking responsibility, or are you giving them a device and saying, go down that rabbit hole? I'm trying to go to Pilates class. You can just sit in the corner and look at your iPad or look at your phone and go down that rabbit hole and see what you can learn from that instead of being a parent. So my call to action from that is, parents, step up. Do you want your kid to be a thought leader or an assassin? That's where we're at.
Do you think our political leaders have a responsibility to turn the temperature down right now?
Well, I think everyone has a responsibility to do that, and I'm doing my part. I'm not in control of other people.
She's doing her part.
Yeah, interesting, because she had no problem going on Fox literally 48 hours earlier. And actually, I think she did Fox. I think she did Outnumbered, maybe on the same day that they recorded the 60 Minutes interview.
Around the same time, yeah.
Excuse me, this with Freudian slip, the CBS interview.
Barry show.
Yeah, Barry show. And so, like, on the one hand, she's saying on Fox, stop saying this about my husband. Stop saying this. You're hurting my family. You're hurting my Turning Point USA family. How dare you? But when it comes to Donald Trump, she's not in control of him. And that was aired 48 hours before Donald Trump went out and basically accused Rob Reiner of getting himself murdered, not because his son was troubled, not because his son was a drug addict, not because there were family dynamics at play, but because it was about Donald Trump, because Rob Reiner had Trump derangement syndrome, according to Donald Trump.
Yep.
I don't see Erica Kirk going back to talk to Harris Faulkner on Outnumbered and saying to her, hey, Harris, I actually have a clarification here. I think what Donald Trump said is also wrong, because there are 2 children right now, much like my 2 kids, who are reeling from the murder of their mother and father. And I think what the President of the United States said was cruel and awful to them. And those are the 2 Reiner kids. Plus, I would venture to be generous and say the son who actually murdered Rob Reiner, I'm sure, is also reeling from what he did. So the grift is insane. The projection is insane. The fact that she's talking about how they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars every time they go after her and go after Turning Point.
That's the thing that was crazy, is that she was like, these people who make hundreds of thousands of dollars an episode. And I was like,
Do you have that clip we played this morning? Because I think people need to watch it, of her walking out.
yes, where I said to you that nothing says I miss my husband like controlled explosives.
Yeah. Can you just play the for 15
Yep.
seconds? You don't have to play the whole thing.
Yep.
Just play it for 1 second. I'm gonna make it- That's enough. Check out our TP USA merch. That's what you saw scrolling across the screen. And she's accusing Candace Owens and Fuentes of monetizing
This
this.
is late stage capitalism.
Yeah.
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 Mm.
I mean, it's a merch store. It's grievance wrapped in a merch store. It's listen, I don't even know what to really say about this because it's such complete and utter bullshit. And somehow we're supposed to give her the space and the time and the respect to grieve because her husband got shot.
Not just grieve, but to the only endorsement I have seen on the homepage of the Washington Post is her with the, I think it's just a rumor and just fun for it, but a rumored paramour.
That was fast.
Yeah, she's being elevated. And I think to Michelle's point, that she's being painted in a new center that moves the Overton window so far over, it just smashes it in process.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, also, I just need to be petty here for a second on the set design and how it's country music coded. The whole thing is country music coded. Because all I was like, oh, am I at the Grand Ole Opry?
Yeah.
Or am I at Erica Kirk's CBS Town Hall?
Well, Julie, you said something last week too, that when my wife and daughter and I were watching, you said last week that you've never known a mascara that doesn't run with tears. Is hers tattooed on? It didn't budge.
You might be using the same one JD Vance is. I mean, if we're going to be real.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel bad, Jeff, because I think you probably know people who work at, I don't know if you know people who work at 60 Minutes. I do. And my heart's broken for them.
Yeah.
Because
but as we've discussed before, they are of a level where not their fault, but they're going to be expected by people like us to stand up. They've earned a lot of money. They have the status. They have the privilege. You know, speaking as an old white man, there comes a point when you use that privilege.
Yeah.
And they're going to be tested. Very
a
soon.
lot of us walked away from money and career for a lot less than this.
Same here. Yep.
Yep.
And I agree with you.
I did want to just make one extra point just on this and how that split in MAGA, MAGA 1.0, MAGA 2.0 with Nick Fuentes and everything, and how they're trying to manufacture where this is going, even with the media ecosystem that they are trying to build. Because Ben Shapiro, who also is like, was he Daily Caller, right? Is that his, or Daily Wire? I forget which one is his.
Yeah.
Something. And he made a statement trying to move the shift to his side as well.
Third, and relatedly, we have a duty to take responsibility for what we say and do. If we hire awful people, we're responsible for that. I have some experience there, as you might suspect. That means that if we offer a guest for your viewing, we owe it to you to ask the kinds of questions that actually get at the truth. If we agree with the guest, that's fine, but we should own it. So, for example, if you host a Hitler apologist, Nazi-loving, anti-American piece of refuse like Nick Fuentes,
oh, so brave.
you know, the Nick Fuentes who said that the Vice President of the United States is a, quote, fat gay race traitor married to a Jeet. The person who said that Charlie Kirk was a, quote, retarded idiot. The person who said, and pardon my language here, it's his quote, that he, quote, took Turning Point USA and fucked it, and that's why it's filled with groypers. If you have that person on your show and you proceed to glaze him, you ought to own it.
This is hilarious. They're trying to define a new definition of...
There is a reason that Charlie Kirk despised Nick Fuentes, and indeed even chided Dinesh D'Souza for debating him. He knew that Nick Fuentes is an evil troll, and that building him up is an act of moral imbecility. And that is precisely what Tucker Carlson did. He built Nick Fuentes up. And he ought to take responsibility for that, just as he ought to take responsibility for glazing pornographer and alleged sex trafficker Andrew Tate, or for mainstreaming fake historian and pseudo-Nazi apologist Daryl Cooper as America's best and most honest popular historian. Hosts are indeed responsible for the guests they choose and the questions they ask those guests.
Ben was trying for a nomination in the Golden Globes for Best Podcast. He didn't get it.
That's what that's about.
Another failed theater kid, honestly.
Fourth, because we have a duty to truth, we also have a duty to provide you with evidence of the claims that we make. Emotive accusations, conspiracy theories, and just guessing questions, that's lazy and stupid and misleading. None of them are a substitute for truth. None of them are a substitute for evidence. So, when Candace Owens says, I don't know, but I know, that is retarded. And we are all more retarded for having heard it.
So here's the problem. Here's the problem, you guys. This is what Ben Shapiro, sorry, Ben Shapiro, you had a nice run as this young wonderkind. You're not,
Yeah.
30. It's over for you. It's over for you. Because what's worse for MAGA 1.0 is that this is the part of the movie where the old revolutionaries stop recognizing the slogans being chanted in their name. And I'm going to give you some historical parallels here that maybe Ben Shapiro, because he fancies himself an intellectual, might recognize. A century ago, Stalin didn't consolidate power by honoring the old Bolsheviks who helped to ignite the Russian Revolution. He did it by erasing them. One by one, the men who had once been indispensable, Lenin's comrades, the architects of the revolution who overthrown the old order, were denounced as insufficiently pure, insufficiently loyal, and insufficiently extreme. And yesterday's radicals became today's traitors.
So, Julie, who's straddling the fence between 1.0 and 2.0, trying to...
Megyn Kelly.
Megyn Kelly.
Oh,
Megyn Kelly is doing it brilliantly because Megyn Kelly is trying to create peace in our time between Candace Owens, whom she has not repudiated, and Erica Kirk. She presumably set up this meeting that completely backfired. It was maybe brilliant for her own brand. It was politically not so brilliant for Erica Kirk because Erica Kirk went there, I think, pretty much begged Candace Owens to cut the shit. And Candace Owens went on her show hours later and said, nope, I met with Erica Kirk. She had no evidence that her husband wasn't murdered by Turning Point USA. So therefore, I'm going to continue to ask questions. But Megyn is doing it brilliantly.
What about Steve Bannon? Where is he?
Steve Bannon is over for Steve Bannon.
He's over. He's on the 1.0.
Do you think over for
Marjorie
him
Taylor
because-
Greene?
Over.
Yeah.
Over. Because, look, Turning Point USA is a great example of this. I'm going to keep using them as an example, but it spent years telling itself it could ride the tiger. It invited extremists like Owens close enough to juice engagement, but again, far enough away to maintain plausible deniability, right? But here's the thing. Tigers don't care about winning elections, and they don't stop when you ask them to act responsibly. Turning Point USA cares about winning elections. They're actually spending money and time organizing to win elections, to win J.D. Vance the presidency in 3 years, to maintain the House next year. These guys, MAGA 2.0 doesn't care about that. They don't care about that. It's not Trump who's the badass anymore, right? It's the people saying things out loud that even Trump has not dared to say. And
Is
Trump,
that the essence of the Epstein fight against Trump? Is that it
yeah,
was a way to shove him to the other side?
100%, because you guys, Trump keeps replaying his greatest hits, right? It's the rigged
Yeah.
election, unfair judges, it's the mean
So
reporters.
boring.
New
Biden,
radicals,
Biden.
right?
Yeah, right.
They're writing a different script entirely, one that treats democracy itself as a joke and pluralism as a weakness. And that's why Trump looks really small in his own movement these days. He doesn't command reverence anymore.
And he doesn't invoke fear. That's the other thing. People aren't afraid of him anymore because they realize that once you speak out, nothing really happens. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene is on her way out of the House by her own accord, but that's just to go on to different things. She used her separation from Trump to catapult her into the next chapter of her career. And, that's why, again, I don't suggest people do this. I'm a masochist. I go on Rumble. I watch Nick Fuentes' channel a lot. If you can handle it, go watch it so that you have an idea of what we're dealing with and what is coming next, because these people are on a level that I don't think the American public, nor do I even think that Republicans or MAGA know anything about or know how to handle, because it's happening so fast. And they're also maneuvering through messaging of economic populism and unaffordability. Like, that is something that Nick Fuentes talks about a lot, is the fact that young people can't afford anything. And, he's like, I live in this tiny house. I never go on vacation. I don't have this lavish lifestyle, which is where the left is going to meet the right, especially with a lot of the anti-Israel sentiment. I mean, it's scary. And it's like the Never Trumper movement keeps moving. Like the goalpost of the Never Trumper movement is just turning into something else, because as I worked with the Never Trumpers for several years, one of the things that they said to me often, I was like, why are they so mad at you, other than just like not liking Trump? And they're like, they see us as traitors. They think we're traitors because we're not following, the crowd.
But the problem is this, and this is just a historical fact, right? Because history tells us how this usually ends. The men who start revolutions rarely survive them, because they're too compromised by success and too tethered to reality. They've actually got to govern. So the future belongs to those who have never been burdened by governing, never forced to deliver, never tempted to moderate. And Trump, in his addled brain, once believed that he was indispensable. Now he's discovering that grievance doesn't require a mascot, really only requires escalation.
Well,
what's more transgressive than praising Hitler and denying the Holocaust?
Right.
And when that stops being transgressive and becomes normalized, like so much else that was once transgressive becomes normalized, I don't know what's next, but something else is going to be next. And then we'll have MAGA 3.0. By that point, everybody here, except for maybe Michelle, because she's a daughter of the American Revolution, the rest of us will be in a concentration camp somewhere.
And media have no sense of this going on.
Zero.
Where they are normalizing a 1.0 now, and think that's then bringing them into some kind of mythical center, back to Barry. And it's far more radical than that, and they're not seeing it. And they're able to dismiss 2.0. Oh, that's the fringe. But didn't they recognize 1.0 was a fringe come?
Of course. A decade ago, 1.0 would never have been on CBS.
No,
You
never.
didn't both sides, whether the earth was flat or the earth was round.
Exactly.
Even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And go back to the Tea Party, and go back go back to Joe Scarborough. Right? It's this constant escalation, which moves the window open.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've been rewatching The Newsroom, which on HBO aired in 2012, 2013. And that first season was a lot about the Tea Party movement and the uprising of the Tea Party movement and how it was being covered by the media. And while that, Aaron Sorkin's writing is problematic, blah, 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 blah. But
thank you.
I love him, but I was like, maybe the women don't need to trip over everything all the time.
Yeah.
And ask all men for help, literally every scene. But the idea of the media, missing the moment and, have a complete lack of responsibility in telling the real story here, and listening to speeches about Mike Lee running to the right of, I forget his name, the senator in Utah before him. All of these things we're dealing with now in like the worst way. And there's this line where he says, it's like, and you should be scared shitless. And here we are. Like I was watching it in like disbelief. I'm like, wow. Everything has come true here. All of it.
I reached out to somebody last night who my wife said, I won't mention her by name because I think she's trying to lay low now, but she was speaking truths about Epstein and MIT and media and tech, and got horrible hell for it, and then kind of withdrew. And I just emailed her last night to see how she was doing, and just to say, you were right, and yeah, she was. And those folks get ignored. I read a piece this week about it was, I think, in the New Republic, I can't remember where it was, The Nation, about the Cassandras, the early people who raised these alarms. They also get ignored.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or they're the crazy people, like, don't listen to her.
It was the New Republic.
Yeah.
The Cassandras who get the Americans who saw all this coming but were ignored and maligned. Call them the Cassandras.
Wow. Is that recent? That's a recent article?
That's just this week by Toby.
Oh,
Buffett.
wow. Okay. I'm going to go find that after this. Wow.
And it's the same thing here, where the media has now taken, Michelle and I talked about that this morning, taken to calling us people who said that the Epstein files were not going to be released in their entirety, the Epstein truthers. This is how mainstream media, this is how New York Times is referring to people who don't believe that Trump will release all of the Epstein files. The Epstein truthers.
The willful innocence, the credulity, the desire to be credulous that the New York Times especially engages in is sinful, because it then means that they miss the story. They don't know what's happening.
And by the way,
and here we go.
Yep. Yeah. Just as we were here, just as we were talking.
David Brooks.
David Brooks. But before we get to David Brooks, the truthers, all of us that said they're never going to release it, as we've been sitting here, my friends.
No, stop.
Todd Blanche.
Get out.
Said the Department of Justice would not be releasing the full Epstein files to Congress on Friday as required under new legislation, instead sending over a partial batch. Yeah. Todd told Fox News this Department of Justice would release several 100,000 documents on Friday, and quote, then over the next couple of weeks, I expect several 100,000 more. He attributed the delay to the need to redact any names or identifying information about witnesses, but failing to turn over the full unclassified files could run afoul of the law, which gave the department 30 days to share the files with Congress. Yeah. There you go.
I'm waiting for Ghislaine Maxwell's habeas corpus to be used as an excuse.
Oh,
totally.
Right? She deserves another day in court, and so we can't prejudice that.
Yeah, and then of course you just started talking about David Brooks. Michelle, put it up again if you don't mind.
Here we are.
Yep. Do we have that photograph of David Brooks that was released yesterday?
So for those of you who are listening, David Brooks headline, The Epstein Story, Count Me Out, from only November 21st.
I'm sure that's exactly less than a month ago. I'm sure. And by the way, he wrote that story right after Congress authorized the full release.
Right. Tick, tick, tick. What happened yesterday?
Yep. Now, do we have that picture of what happened yesterday, Michelle?
Sorry, of who? Which one?
Of David Brooks and Epstein.
Yep. I'm finding it right now.
While you're finding it, Michelle, for people who are listening, David Brooks was among the people hanging out at Jeffrey Epstein's house in a tranche of photographs that was released yesterday by the House Democrats. Now, if I'm A.G. Sulzberger, Jeff, who is the only person that can hire or fire opinion writers at the New York Times, do I have any credibility left if I don't immediately fire David Brooks, despite all the years that he spent at the New York Times as their columnist? If I'm at the Atlantic, sorry, my friends, the Atlantic, do I keep David Brooks on?
The credibility is already gone, in my view, because it's the broken times. At the very minimum, I would have expected by today some leak about an investigation, about hiring a law firm to look into this, about something that would let them save face. But the fact that they even haven't done that tells me they don't give a damn.
Yep.
I think this is a real problem.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think this is a real problem.
If he hadn't written that column,
then it would have been okay.
It would have been okay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been embarrassing. Yeah, he was there, but
There it is.
others were as well, blah, 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 blah.
There's David Brooks hanging out at Jeffrey Epstein's house. Now, I don't know what he was doing there. There's no pictures of David Brooks hanging out at Jeffrey Epstein's house having sex with Andrew.
Do we know that it was in the house? We don't know where it was. The problem with so many of these photos is we
Yeah,
don't. But there's another picture which has him right next to Epstein. He was clearly there with Epstein, right there, smiley.
It says New York Times
2011 dinner. Okay.
This is dinner with Jeffrey Epstein in the latest set of photos, and there's the close up of him in the photos that were released. And what is this thing here? It says Jeffrey Epstein was a terrific guy. Oh wait, this is the wrong.
This is
article.
the longer. This is the bigger story about
Let
their
me find the other one. Yep.
And by the way, that one was funny too. Just while you're there, the Times was just talking about Epstein's relationship with Trump, basically chasing women, attracting women. I mean, it was a very weird way to put it. It was a way to diminish what they've each done.
It felt very boys will be boys in some
Absolutely.
of it. And
very locker room.
The problem, the Times ultimately, and I hate to get on this whole Barry Weiss, sorry, is feminism necessary or is it evil? I'm going to just say that it's necessary, and I'm going to tell you why. These people all hung out, and all of us are from New York, the New York media market, so we know. These people all hung out together at the same parties, same people, in the same houses, socializing with each other, all of them. I have no idea what A.G. Sulzberger or his dad did in the past. I'm not making that leap. What I'm saying is that it's a small town.
They were actually more cautious than that. I don't think that they ever did that.
But I'm not suggesting they did. But it's a small town.
They went to Davos. That was as far as they went.
Okay, but it's a small town, and we're all 1 degree of separation removed from each other. And Michelle and I talked about this the other day because we were talking about Rob Reiner, and we were talking about Michelle brought up that Everything Is Copy documentary that Jacob Bernstein did about his mom, and I said, "Oh yeah, I went to the premiere of that over at the the Museum of Modern Art." And so the point is, I'm saying all of this because you could bring something up, and there's 1 degree of separation of all of us hanging out.
Yeah.
So I get that there is a reluctance to go after people who you socialize with, who you see at cocktail parties, who you see at Christmas parties, who you might see on the plane to Davos if you're sharing a private jet there, who you see out in the Hamptons on weekends. I get it, and I don't begrudge it because we're all kind of tangentially circling the same world. What I do have a problem with is not disclosing the shit and allowing that column to go forward without any kind of disclosure that you knew Jeffrey Epstein, you hung out with Jeffrey Epstein, you laughed with Jeffrey Epstein, you dined with Jeffrey Epstein.
And then you do nothing about it.
And you said nothing about it.
I do begrudge it for the journalists, especially, that they shouldn't be. I mean, it's the access game.
Yeah.
It's part of that. And it's a power game. And when I started Entertainment Weekly, I refused to allow the critics to do features on stars because I didn't want them to be in a position. It's just movie criticism or TV criticism. What's the big deal? But I didn't want them to be in the position to try to nuzzle up to celebrity. And when you're covering politics and power, it's all the more important. People should be separate. And you have this performative thing of a former editor of the Washington Post saying before Marty Baron, "Oh, I don't vote because that makes me pure." That's BS. That's not acknowledging the power and privilege that exists. And they don't acknowledge their own.
Yeah, and I think that's right. I think there is a certain amount of power and privilege.
Yeah.
And so my thing is, if you are fortunate enough, I guess you would consider it to be socializing with people who are in power and privileged, then you don't report on them. Whether it's Joe Mika headed down to Mar-a-Lago to hobnob with Donald Trump, or it's David Brooks hobnobbing, hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, and then writing that. Like, I could have written that column, right? You could have written that column. Neither of us have hung out with Jeffrey Epstein. Michelle, you've never hung out with Jeffrey Epstein. Any of us could have written. No. That's the point. And one of us could have written that column, like David Brooks, except that David Brooks did know Jeffrey Epstein. Right. He did hang out with Jeffrey Epstein, and he never disclosed it.
Well, we also don't know who else was at that dinner, for example. And we go to. I bring up the Media Lab again because I think Harvard and MIT were much ensconced with all of this. The people who hung out with them as a result, there were a lot of tech folks. and I might be doing a non sequitur here, and pardon me for it, but it's on my brain. It's also corporate, what companies hang out. We've seen that happen with Trump. We've seen that happen where they don't have any shame. And I'm appalled that Bank of America, which is my bank for now, is going to be the sponsor of the Barry Weiss show. When the first show had no sponsors, all it had was direct response. And the way that works in advertising is you're not paid for the time, you're paid if people buy from watching that commercial. And so it's a non-risk way to do it, to fill the time with ads. And so it looks like you have sponsors, but you're just selling pillows. Now Bank of America has chosen to associate itself with Barry Weiss and all that comes with that. And so where are the protests? Should we be protesting about David Brooks? Should we be protesting about Bank of America? You know, we came out for Jimmy Kimmel,
Right.
Because we love Jimmy Kimmel, and I was there with him.
And it was the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's why I went on CNN the last time I was on, when I didn't really want to be there with Scott Jennings, but I said, you know, for Jimmy, I'll go do it.
Yeah.
But we're also numb. The media aren't covering it with proper shock and anger. So what about us? Where do we put our anger? Where do we protest? Is it worth protesting David Brooks? Is it worth making the Sulzbergers uncomfortable? Can we? Is it possible to make them uncomfortable?
You know, I think, look, I don't know if it's possible to make them uncomfortable, but this to me is so transgressive. It's so wrong. And same with The Atlantic, because David Brooks writes for The Atlantic now. Like, come on.
Yeah.
You know who owns The Atlantic?
And he's been trying to present himself, back to Michelle's word, center. He's been trying to present himself as the great bridge builder, as bringing people together, as we're going to have peace in the kingdom because I'm just the most cuddly guy you can imagine. And he's not.
No.
I want to just read this part here that is just, whew. He wrote in his column, this is a quote, the Epstein case is precious to the QAnon types because here, in fact, was a part of the American elite that really was running a sex abuse ring, Brooks wrote in his November column. So, of course, they leaped to the conclusion that Epstein was a typical member of the American establishment, not an outlier. It's grooming and sex trafficking all the way down. A spokesperson for the Democratic members of the Oversight Committee did not immediately respond to a request for clarification about the details of the photos. But here's more photos. I mean, he just basically was like, this is nothing. Everyone's making a big deal out of it. It doesn't need to be a big deal. Like, there's so many other things we can be talking about. We can talk, and that was the beginning of his column. He talks about, oh, but Russia and Ukraine and this and that and this. And he's like, this is just so not important. Like, why are we even talking about this? And I was like, well, maybe you don't want us talking about this because you know that those photos exist and maybe there's more of them. And because the only women that exist in any of those photographs they're not peers. They're not women of a certain age. They're women of a certain age and they're young. They're very, very, very young. And that should tell us everything about this table full of creepy old guys, you know, comparatively to the teenage girls, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
It's maddening. And it's like, these are the people we're supposed to trust. That's the thing, is the trust. The trust is broken forever with these people and these legacy media outlets. There's just no trust. And it's like, you can't cherry pick through the New York Times what you can believe and what you can't. You know, you're asking people to, you know, an impossible task to navigate all of that. And the average person can't do it.
Let's also talk about, speaking of CNN and speaking of Scott Jennings, your favorite person of mine.
What a guy.
Who just got a big promotion. By the way, Scott Jennings was hanging on by the skin of his teeth if Kamala Harris had won, just so you know. It's CNN.
Oh, yeah.
But now he's taking over Charlie Kirk's time slot at Salem.
Oh.
What do you make
Formerly
of
Rush Limbaugh's time slot before that, yes?
Yep. What do we make of that, Jeff? Other than
the wages of sin are pretty good.
Well, what I make of that is I spoke to somebody at CNN the other day who is a Republican who was appalled at this. And I said, well, at least your children and grandchildren will be able to ask what you were doing during this time, and you'll be able to look them in the eye. Did I ever tell you the story of how I once went on, I was supposed to go on a date with this German guy, and Michelle, I don't know if I ever told you the story. I was supposed to go on a date.
It's new information.
Many years ago, I met this guy at a party. He was German, Michael from Munich. And he was a really great guy. He asked me out, and I was like, okay, great. And then one of my friends who was hosting the party came up to me and said, and I'm not going to disclose which high-ranking Nazi it was, but disclosed that his grandfather was this very, 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 very famous, prominent, high-ranking Nazi, and that this guy's father and this guy clearly had just, disassociated themselves from this grandfather. And I didn't go out on a date with him, and it wasn't fair to him because the sins of the father shouldn't certainly go down 2 generations to the son. But then I projected, and I thought, okay, if I end up falling in love with this guy, marrying him, I'm not procreating and having little Nazi I'm not continuing this bloodline. Deeply unfair to this poor guy. Deeply unfair to him. But that's how I felt. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you right now, as I sit here today, there are going to be people who are not going to want to date these people's children and grandchildren when this is all over, because people have become infamous as horrible human beings. Horrible.
Yep.
I agree. I'm listening to an amazing book right now, Family of Spies, by Christine Kuhn.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard
it's
about
really
that.
quite wonderful. It's new, and her father was German, and she never really understood why he was so quiet about the war. Well, it turns out, and I'm not giving away any spoilers because it starts the book off. Her grandfather and grandmother, and who she never knew, were key German spies that made Pearl Harbor possible. And she's unwrapping all of this, and she's grappling then with the familial guilt about all of this. And I've seen this happen with other German families aplenty. There is you have an impact on your future generations.
Mm-hmm.
The future generations didn't have anything to do with it, but you're having an impact on them when you're doing these terrible things. God help us if Miller has any progeny.
God, I know. My husband works for a German company, and a lot of his coworkers are German, and they're in our age group, in which would put their grandparents in that age group. And I remember he was asking, I'm going to butcher the quote, but he had asked somebody like a superior, like, hey, can I wear this button or something? And it was for, I don't know, Remembrance Day or something. It was something like that, because they wear the poppies or whatever. And he said something, we want to remember or whatever. And somebody said, well, I guess it depends on what side you were on, your grandparents, right. And he was like, oh my God. And he knew it, intellectually, but that was the first time he realized it, that us talking about our grandparents in that period of time is a very, very, very different situation than those people talking about their grandparents. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. We're not very far removed from it. We're just
And
not.
we forget. I mean, I've ranted before how I wish journalists would read Hannah Arendt. Journalists so easily forget history. They write the first draft of history. If it's not new, it's not news. They don't look back. They don't understand what's happened before. No, it doesn't repeat itself, but it teaches lessons. Mm-hmm. And those lessons need to be taken seriously. And journalists should be on the top of explaining those lessons to the public, and they don't.
Yep.
They don't say what's going to happen here. Instead, we see them just treating it as if it's all cute and wonderful, and they don't judge anyone. I put up a story. I sent you guys a story of love, or at least marriage, in the air at Trump's Washington, the New York Times. All the marriages. So they're just normalizing Laura Loomer and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump Jr. And isn't this nice? They have love stories, or as I call it, Worst People magazine.
I was like, Brian Glenn. Just if people don't know this, the guy that Marjorie Taylor Greene is marrying is the guy who works for RSBN, which is like a news network on the internet. That they're pretty much the only people who were covering all of Trump's rallies for the 4 years that he was out of office. Because I watched, unfortunately, most of them. Ridiculous people. But He's the one who was in the Oval Office asking Zelensky why he wasn't wearing a suit. This is the people we're dealing with.
This is who,
Unserious people.
They're
Unqualified.
treating him, they're normalizing him. It's all a process of normalization.
Yep. Yep.
And so Julie too, what happens to, what did you do in the war, Dad? What did you do in the war, Mr. or Ms. Editor or producer or anchor? Right? I think at some point it stands as to what people stood up and did.
Before we go, because I do have to jump at noon, but before we go, I will just say that there was a funny statistic I saw somewhere that if everybody who claimed that they were in the French Resistance had actually been in the French Resistance, it would have been the population of Europe. Never mind France.
Right.
So I'm sure that all of these people will be telling their children and grandchildren that they stood up and so on and so forth. But we know that the French Resistance in real life was teeny tiny, very small. Okay. On that note, I have to jump, you guys. You can go. I gotta jump.
Well, now I was gonna maybe we can talk about this next time, but at 30-second, I wanted to ask Jeff what he thought about YouTube and the future of the Oscars, 2029 to 2033, which is a weird thing to think about, but like that certainly points to the future, the present, and the future of where everyone's going. And I'm so glad that we're here on YouTube. Honestly, we've picked the right place.
I want to thank the Academy for giving me a chapter in my book about the death of mass media.
Exactly.
It's over. It's over.
It's true. Okay, you guys, happy holidays. It's the
same to you.
6th night of Hanukkah, I think, tonight. So happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas to everybody next week. I'm going to be traveling on Friday, but maybe we could pre-record the show for next Friday if that works for folks. And air it next Friday. And on that note, everybody have a wonderful weekend. And we'll see, Michelle and I'll see you on tomorrow, on Saturday for a Saturday show. But everybody
you guys never rest.
We never rest. But Jeff, we love the show so much. Thank you for coming on. And
thank you for having me.
See you guys next week. Bye, everybody. Bye.